All right, get ready, because today we're taking a deep dive into all things VMware, specifically that 5V0-31.23 exam.
Sounds exciting.
It is. We're going to go beyond just the facts and really dig into the why of the technology, like what makes a VMware admin tick.
I like it. A deep dive.
Exactly. And to help us navigate all this, well, we have a real VMware pro with us today.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. So are you ready to unpack some of these practice questions? You're the kind that'll get you prepped for exam day.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's demystify this exam.
Perfect. So first things first, let's imagine you're a brand new sysadmin. You've got this VMware exam coming up, and you're looking for, well, any advantage you can get.
Been there.
Right. That's where we come in. So let's take a quick look at the exam format, just the basics. We don't want to bore you.
No, keep it snappy.
Okay, so what are we looking at here?
So you've got 70 multiple choice questions, and you have 105 minutes to conquer them. The passing score is 300, but it's scaled, so don't get too hung up on that number for now. And it's all in English.
All in English. Good to know.
Yeah. Oh, and one more thing, it's proctored.
Proctored, huh? So no sneaking a peek at Google during the exam.
Nope. No Googling allowed. Gotta rely on that brain power.
All right, that makes those study sessions even more important.
Mm.
Okay, let's dive into the heart of it all, the practice questions. I've got a bunch here, and some are real head-scratchers.
I bet.
All right, here's the first one. After upgrading the vRealize suite, what should be the next component to upgrade an area suite lifecycle? I'm thinking vCenter Server. It's kind of like the brain of the whole VMware world.
Yeah, that's a logical guess, but this is where the upgrade order gets a little tricky. The correct answer is actually NSXT Data Center.
NSXT Data Center.
Yeah.
Interesting. So we're not just talking about the core infrastructure here. We're talking about the networking layer, too.
Exactly.
So why the emphasis on NSXT in this upgrade sequence?
Well, it all boils down to dependencies. You see, vRealize, now part of the area suite, it's all about automation and management, right? And NSXT, that's your modern networking and security foundation. So when you upgrade vRealize, you got to make sure your network can handle all those new features and functions.
Okay, I see. So it's not just about each piece doing its own thing. It's about how they all work together.
Right. It's like building a house. You need a strong foundation before you can put up the walls.
Makes sense. I bet a lot of people get tripped up by thinking they should always upgrade the core components first.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's what makes these practice questions so valuable. They force you to think beyond the individual pieces and see the big picture, how everything sits together in a VMware environment.
All right, question number 2. Let's see. This one's about application virtual networks and VMware Cloud Foundation. When setting up application virtual networks in VMware Cloud Foundation, what must be carefully considered? All right, let's look at the options. Ensuring subnet allocation aligns with cloud policies, preventing conflicts with pre-existing IP addresses, assigning a separate VLAN per application, and using dynamic IP addressing for better scalability. Wow, that's a lot to consider.
It is, and they're all important factors, but the one that could really bring your whole network down if you're not careful is preventing those IP address conflicts.
IP conflicts, that sounds pretty basic.
It is, but it's crucial. Think about it. You're basically carving out new space in a network that's already bustling with activity. You can't just start assigning IP addresses randomly. You got to make sure they're not already being used. If 2 devices on your network end up with the same IP address, well, things get messy fast.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it's like having 2 houses with the same street address. Mail gets lost, deliveries go to the wrong place, and communication breaks down. It's the same with a network. You'll have drop connections, application errors. It's a real headache.
Okay, so meticulous IP management is a must. Got it. All right, on question number 3. Let's see. What is an essential aspect of managing authentication in Area Suite lifecycle?
This one takes us into the world of security and control. The key here is establishing an external identity provider connection.
An external identity provider connection. Why would you outsource something as important as authentication? Wouldn't it be safer to handle everything internally?
Well, it's not really about outsourcing security. It's more about leveraging a system that's potentially more robust and centralized. Think of it like, instead of having a security guard at every single door in a building, you have one central checkpoint at the main entrance. Everyone who enters the building has to go through that one checkpoint no matter where they're going. That central checkpoint is your external identity provider.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like having a single source of truth for all your user accounts.
Exactly. And that brings a lot of benefits. It can tighten security because you're relying on a system that's potentially stronger than anything you could set up on your own. It streamlines user management because you're only updating user information in one place. And it makes auditing and compliance a whole lot easier because you have a central log of all access activities.
So more efficient and more secure. Got it.
All right, on to question 4. This one is about vSAN stretched clusters. What is a key requirement for a successful vSAN stretched cluster deployment in VMware Cloud Foundation? We've got a few options here. Low latency, high bandwidth intersite connectivity, redundant management clusters, high performance CPUs for all nodes, and a secondary vCenter server instance. So many possibilities.
This is a great example of where understanding the why is as important as knowing the answer. And the answer in this case is low latency, high bandwidth intersite connectivity.
Really, I would have thought having powerful CPUs would be the most important thing. Why is the network connection so critical here? Well, think about what a stretched cluster is. You're basically extending your vSAN data store across 2 physical locations, right?
Okay, so 2 sites instead of just 1. Got it.
Right. And to keep everything in sync, you need a really solid connection between those 2 sites.
So it's not just about having 2 sites, it's about making sure they can talk to each other quickly and reliably.
Exactly. And that's where low latency, high bandwidth connectivity comes in. You're constantly replicating data, handling failovers, and making sure everything is consistent across both locations. If your connection is slow or unreliable, those operations are going to suffer.
So the network is really the unsung hero of a stretched cluster. It's the foundation for everything else to work properly.
Absolutely. And that's a principle that applies to a lot of distributed systems in IT. The network is often the bottleneck, even more so than the processing power of individual machines.
All right, question number 5. How does VMware Cloud Gateway facilitate secure connectivity to VMware Cloud services? Okay, the options are by utilizing VPN-based encryption mechanisms through unencrypted direct links to cloud providers, by requiring an MPLS connection, or via direct satellite uplinks. So how do we securely connect to those cloud services?
Well, the answer lies in good old VPN technology. VMware Cloud Gateway uses VPN-based encryption to create a secure tunnel between your on-premises environment and those VMware Cloud services.
VPNs. They're everywhere these days, and for good reason.
Right. VPNs create that encrypted tunnel, so your data is protected as it travels across the public internet. It's like sending your data through a secret passageway. Nobody can see what's inside.
So it's a secure and reliable way to connect to those cloud services. Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly. VPNs are a fundamental technology for secure cloud connectivity, and VMware Cloud Gateway leverages them to provide that peace of mind when you're accessing your cloud resources.
Okay, let's move on to question 6.
vSAN stretched clusters and fault domains.
Okay.
This sounds a bit more technical.
Yeah.
Can you break down why this is important for mission-critical apps?
Right, so imagine you're running a business that really relies on its data.
Okay.
You've got your data center going, but what happens if a disaster strikes? You know, a fire, a flood, a power outage?
Yeah, those things happen.
They do happen, and they can stop your operations.
That's a nightmare.
It is. That's where vSAN stretched clusters come in. They let you extend your storage across multiple sites,
Right.
creating redundancy. So if one site goes down,
Yeah.
your apps and data are still accessible from the other site.
So it's like having a backup data center.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But to make this work, you need to understand fault domains.
Fault domains.
Yeah, they're like zones within your data centers that help distribute data.
Okay.
By configuring fault domains correctly, you can make sure that if one part of your infrastructure fails,
Right.
you don't lose access to all your data.
So it's not just about having 2 sites.
Nope.
It's about making sure your data is spread across them.
Exactly, to minimize the impact of any failure.
Okay. So vSAN stretched clusters offer resilience, but they're not a magic bullet.
You got it. They are not a magic bullet. There are things you need to consider,
Like what?
like network latency between sites.
Oh, okay.
Got to make sure apps perform well, even during a failover.
This is where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
It's not just knowing the technology.
Right.
It's understanding the nuances.
Absolutely.
This exam really rewards that kind of thinking.
It does.
All right. I'm feeling a little smarter already.
Good.
Question 7 brings in SDDC Manager.
Okay.
Sounds like it plays a big role in VMware Cloud Foundation upgrades.
It does. SDDC Manager is like the brain
The brain.
of your VMware Cloud Foundation environment.
Okay.
It orchestrates everything,
Including upgrades.
especially upgrades. And when it comes to upgrades, sequences everything.
Got it.
You can't just upgrade components randomly.
Right.
SDDC Manager makes sure you upgrade in the correct order.
To avoid issues.
Exactly. To avoid compatibility issues.
So it's like following a recipe.
Yes. You can't just throw all the ingredients in at once.
Right. You won't get a good cake.
Exactly. SDDC Manager is your recipe book for upgrades.
I like that.
It guides you through each step,
Okay.
making sure you upgrade things like vCenter Server, NSXT, and your ESXi hosts
In the right order.
in the correct order.
Right.
This minimizes downtime and reduces risk.
So SDDC Manager takes the guesswork out of upgrades.
For sure, but there's still best practices.
Right. What are some tips or pitfalls to watch out for?
Always consult the VMware documentation.
Okay.
It's your Bible for upgrades.
Yeah.
One common mistake is not backing up your environment
Oh, yeah. You got to back up.
before upgrading.
Always better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly.
And you mentioned NSXT.
Yeah,
It seems like networking is really important in VMware Cloud Foundation.
it is.
Maybe we can explore that more later.
I think that's a great idea. Networking is fundamental to any cloud environment.
For sure.
Understanding how NSXT works with VMware Cloud Foundation
Right.
is essential for this exam.
Okay. Well, we'll be back after a short break to dive deeper into VMware networking.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned.
See you soon.
We're back, and before the break, we were talking about upgrades.
We were.
And it sounds like SDDC Manager is super important for that process.
Yeah, it really is. It's the control center for your VMware Cloud Foundation environment.
Like the control center.
Yeah, it handles everything from initial deployment to management.
Okay, so SDDC Manager keeps everything in order.
Right.
But what about actually moving a running VM from one host to another?
Right.
Question 8 focuses on vMotion,
Okay.
and it still feels like magic to me.
Oh, yeah.
Zero downtime migration. How's that even possible?
It's amazing what virtualization can do. With vMotion, you can transfer a running VM
Okay.
from one physical server to another without interrupting anything.
So users don't even notice.
They don't. It's seamless.
Wow. So everything just keeps running.
Exactly. Email, websites, everything.
Right. It's like the VM is being teleported
That's a great way to put it.
while everyone's still working.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
It really is.
Yeah.
What are some of the benefits for IT admins?
Well, think about hardware maintenance.
Okay.
In the past, you'd need to schedule downtime to upgrade a server or fix something.
Right. Usually after hours.
Yeah. With vMotion, you can just migrate the VMs off the host,
Okay.
do the maintenance, and then migrate them back.
So no more late night work?
Nope.
And no more angry calls from users?
Exactly. Everyone's happy.
It sounds like vMotion is essential for VMware Cloud Foundation.
It pretty much is. It brings so much flexibility.
Yeah, it does.
And it makes everything more efficient.
It ties into the whole resilient architecture thing we discussed earlier.
It does. vMotion adds another layer of resilience.
Okay, so this leads us to networking.
All right.
We mentioned NSXT before the break.
Yeah.
It manages network virtualization in VMware Cloud Foundation.
That's right.
Question 9 mentions these CIDR ranges.
Oh, yeah.
10.0.0.08 and 172.16.0182. Can you explain what those are?
Those are blocks of IP addresses for private networks.
Okay, private networks.
Like internal addresses within your organization or your cloud environment.
Right. And why are they important for this exam?
Well, they're especially important when we're talking about Kubernetes.
Kubernetes. How does that fit into VMware Cloud Foundation?
VMware Cloud Foundation actually supports Kubernetes directly.
So you can run Kubernetes on top of VMware.
Exactly.
Right.
And to make sure these Kubernetes clusters work, they need their own network space.
Okay. Dedicated network space?
Yeah, that's where those private IP address ranges come in.
So those CIDR ranges create like a separate neighborhood for Kubernetes where everything can communicate without messing with the rest of the network?
Exactly. They allow Kubernetes to manage its own internal networking.
Okay. That makes sense. So it's not just random numbers.
Nope.
It's about creating a structured network environment.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing NSXT helps with all this.
It does. NSXT makes it all possible.
Okay, so it defines and manages these private networks.
Yeah.
And enforces security policies.
That's right.
Wow. It's complex, but powerful.
It is. It's a critical part of the 5V0-31.23 exam.
So understanding how NSXT works with Kubernetes is essential.
It is. Especially how to manage IP addressing.
Okay, we've covered so much.
We have.
My brain is getting full.
I know it's a lot to take in, but remember, the exam isn't about memorizing everything.
That's good to hear.
It's about understanding the core concepts and how to apply them.
Right, real-world applications.
Exactly.
Our last question for this part is about Cloud Builder.
Okay.
Question 10 highlights its role in automated deployment.
Right.
Can you tell us why that's so valuable?
Cloud Builder automates the setup of VMware Cloud Foundation.
So instead of configuring everything manually,
Yeah.
you can let Cloud Builder do it.
Exactly. It follows predefined blueprints.
Oh, like a template?
Yeah. And it makes sure your environment is set up correctly and consistently.
Following best practices?
That's right. This reduces errors and makes sure everything is secure from the start.
This must save a ton of time.
It does, especially for large deployments.
And it ensures consistency.
Yeah. If you're deploying in multiple data centers,
Right.
Cloud Builder makes sure everything is configured the same way.
This is where the real-world application comes in.
It does.
It's not just theory. It's about understanding how these tools are used.
Exactly.
So Cloud Builder streamlines deployments, reduces errors, and ensures consistency.
Yeah.
These are important skills.
Very important skill.
Well, we've come to the end of our deep dive.
It's been a great discussion.
We hope you've learned a lot and feel ready to tackle this exam.
I think so.
Remember, you've got this. Go out there and conquer that exam and then make some cloud magic happen.
Best of luck, everyone.